me?
Yes, yes, now we can hear.
Okay. Hello, everybody. There was some login issue. That's why I was messaging to the technical. Okay, because, hello, everybody. Welcome, everyone. This is one of the most interesting and most sought after session in the PHDH World Forum. And startups and innovation is actually the driving force in India and everywhere in the world as well in this challenging time of COVID-19 pandemic. And I have seen Dr. Jitendra Kumar, how he has laid the foundation of Bangalore Bio Innovation Center. When the actual physical foundation was laid, I was there also. So very few companies were there. Now, so many companies have from incubators level to they have become success story and success cases. So congratulations to many. Sorry, some noise is there. Can you mute everybody? So there are many success cases from Bangalore Bio Innovation Center I have seen, and I have seen Dr. Jitendra Kumar. I have accompanied him to many international biotech shows, and many of the faces here also familiar to me. And thank you for joining this expo and this seminar, and wish you all good luck. And welcome, Dr. Gupta. Please carry on. Over to you, Dr. Jitendra Kumar.
Good evening, everybody. I am very delighted to see you all in this very important webinar, or I can say conference, where we all are here to discuss the contribution of Indian startups in this COVID-19 challenge, this 19 pandemic, how we all have contributed. And the most important thing which I want to place before you to ponder and then comment is the Indian startup community has been the most agile. Nothing to comment negatively about various institutions which are there like IITs, ISCs and all. They all have done tremendous good work, we all know, as far as science is concerned. But when it comes to entrepreneurship and technology development, I think the incubation movement in India has played a very, very strong role. We have Dr. Anita Gupta here, who is representing the National Science and Technology Entrepreneurship Development Board. She is the head of that board, and she is an advisor to Department of Science and Technology. I had the privilege of working with her for a long time. When I was at ICICI Knowledge Park, she has been a great mentor. And in one way, I would say that we have been initiated by her in this incubation movement. And Dipanvita madam was there with us, and we all worked together to create the incubation centers at IKP. And of course, NSTDB has been a pioneer in funding many startups and as well as many incubators in the country. I think the number of incubation centers that NSTDB has funded and mentored has created a very, very strong impact. And that is reflection in today's world when we see a lot of companies working on COVID-19 with a very good agility and coming up with the products. See, it may not be necessary that only the funding that NSTDB has provided, but the support system, the mentorship, the ideas that they have set up before the country, that is more important. So what I would like to do is I would just ask each of the panel members to say at least 5 to 7 minutes about their experience in the product development, especially related to COVID-19. Anita Gupta madam can talk about what are the various initiatives that government has taken to spur the entrepreneurship movement, and especially with respect to the COVID-19 challenge. And our innovators, Adarsh, Manjunath, Dr. Damle, Dr. Vishal Rao, they can tell about what they have done, what product they have launched in the market, and what kind of support they have got from the government system and the whole ecosystem. And then we will talk about the opportunities and challenges further as we go ahead. So I'll start with Dr. Anita madam. Please, if you can tell about what are the various initiatives that government has taken in the backdrop of what capacities you have built over 20-25 years before. So that would be very, very, good. Over to you, ma'am. Ma'am, you can unmute yourself.
So very good evening and thank you, Dr. Jitendra. Warm greetings from my side, from DST side, to all the fellow panelists, the innovators, all those who have joined for today's session. Jitendra has already introduced me, so I will start from there and restrict my talk or insights only what we have done in last 6-7 months ever since COVID struck us, say in the you can say last week of January, with Kalra being the 3 medical students brought from China, medical students. But government sprung into action only, say maybe in the first week of March, where PSC office started deliberating on it. But from when it percolated down to department level, it was somewhere around middle of March. And come to think of it, we in the last 20 odd years had set up a pool of a network of more than 150 incubators spread all over the country, hosted at top rung institutes. But COVID gave us so good opportunity where the collective metal of the whole incubator and their startups, there are 3,000 plus startups under physical incubation at various incubation centers. That was that came into fore, that came into display. And it's so heartening to note that you never have heard of how in a span of say only 3-4 days we formulated a program, Kavach, which has an acronym, Center for Augmenting War on COVID-19 Health Crisis. And we really zeroed on SINE IIT Bombay, which is a good confluence of technology, as well as has also works with the DBT as a Bionust incubator. So we wanted to have that kind of expertise, preparedness to launch this initiative in no time. Everything was done at the fag end of March, when we are just closing the financial year. Funds were released. It was a 56 CR worth of project, and with a clear mandate of identifying and spotting solutions COVID in 5 defined verticals. First was ventilators and respiratory aids. Second was the PPEs, mask, and all. Then sanitizer, disinfectants. Then diagnostic kits, and fifth was the IT-based solutions, informatics solutions, which are required going forward. So we got really very good response as against call for applications, and we have zeroed. It's a very structured process. Every thematic area we involve medical specialists, because without which actually all the users, take the example of ventilators, when there were no ICU quality ventilators, invasive, non-invasive, both indigenous ones, one cannot develop with the support of having pulmonologists on board. So wherever, how they could fast track the product development cycle was taking good pulmonologists, ICU specialists on board right at the conceptualization stage. So if you bring them the kind of, you can say, insights, the real practical clinical insights which come from for designing such kind of product, which is readily acceptable at a medical practitioner level, because of kind of, we can't play with the patient's life when you talk of ventilators. It's such a high, you can say, precision, and it's a critical care equipment. So, and that's how, like, mass PPs, every aspect. India has really showcased a global story in this. If you talk about ventilators, if you talk about PPs, if you talk of diagnostic kits, where March end we were zero. Everything was getting imported, be it from diagnostic from Germany or China or PPs from Korea. And so is the case of ventilators from US and other who are strong in the engineering and medical equipment sector. But we had a full confidence on our talent pool. We have a strongest talent pool, be it technical or even for the medical side. And only which came into play was, see, when all stakeholders come on board at the right time, work day in and day out to call out a program and then help each and everyone. See, when I was involved in the Kavach program, I just simply forgot to sleep because we had a larger mission behind us. And God gives us energy in those trying and times. My whole team worked day in and day out. And that's how we really delivered. And credit goes to each and everyone who are part of stakeholders. It's not me or our secretary. We all worked in unison, in total sort of a symphony to create the kind of orchestra which was required to deliver. And today are 51 top 51 solutions from the Kavach. So that was the one segment we identified, and everyone had a, you can say everyone worked or stretched extra mile to come out with and help each and every. See the kind of connections which were made. Power of collaboration was at display. I was part of an IIT network. I was part of the Pune network. So Pune people, they really remarkable. All techies, all mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, all complementary skill set, incubators, state government people on one platform working day in and day out. I like when I used to close my you can say phone say at 1:30 or 2:30. Even then constant flow of messages, exchange of information. Where could I source this particular sensor? Or someone has connect in Taiwan. How could I regulate the pressure? And these kind of talks were going on. Everyone was in a mission mode, and that really worked well. And so that has given us a new level of confidence. Given any sort of a challenge and trying times, if we come together, we can really deliver and tackle the problems. And so is the spirit of startups. We all are a very small team. We are nimble, agile. We have to be responsive to challenges. Many startups in this period completely pivoted. See, because of lockdown and all issues, they were not able to service their orders. But everything came standstill. But it was their determination that now they really need to look out for the next big opportunity. What is that? Figure out what are the ideas which are in open innovations domain. Can we work out, reverse, or do something? So everyone really worked well, and thanks, everything had fallen in place. Government was supportive. So was the centers, like if you talk of Jitendra Center, Bio, and state governments. Everyone was really forthcoming, supportive, and that's the beauty of how one should tackle challenge of this order, this scale. And we had a mission that we will actually start releasing within all products which we support has to see the light of the day, be in market in next 6 months, because at that point of time we never knew how long this COVID is going to last. And if it the apprehension were, or the positive side was that it will start flattening or slowing down somewhere around July, August. But as we speak now, still there's so much of uncertainty about even vaccine, and new science is evolving day by day. There's no clear-cut, you can say, treatment as of now available. So much of mutations has taken place for this virus, and there are second wave emerging. There are cases when patients who have recovered have shown some signs of reoccurrence. So given all those conditions, let us look at the positive side only. And in this trying uncertain times, I think startup really played a good role. And apart from this activity, we in the department also support seed support program under Nidhi Vertical. And we actually had directed all our incubators to spot startups who may be outside the ambit of incubator. Just reach out, initiate a grand challenge to spot COVID solutions from either restricting to your own region, national level, wherever possible. And through this exercise, we could identify top, again, there in that case, top 40, 50 solutions. So in all, we have supported more than 100 solutions in last 6 months, and PSA office has actually brought out an online, you can say, comprehensive booklet on mapping the indigenous solutions in COVID-19. I think there also, it could, I am not very aware about the exact number. It should touch around 300 to 500 in all. And because Niti Aayog also had their special challenge, Startup India, DPIIT had their challenge, and so are incubators all across, wherever possible. If this was under their domain, everyone really worked well. And so this is how the status, and we are proud to share that like many of our startups have really come out with innovative kind of solutions. And like if you talk of PP, another set of solution emerged, like how to dispose it of, how the environmental parts, or what could be the, how you make the PPs reusable, and how you enhance the shelf life of the masks, so how antimicrobial coating, antiviral coating, nano coating. So you have to infuse innovations in all the products which were required. So is the case of how AI could be used in enhancing the patient outcomes, making the, in terms of zeroing on the customized drugs which could be prescribed. So AI, even for diagnostics, use of AI, because everything is depend upon the algorithm, which has a good amount of data sets and data points to enhance the reliability. You name a sector, and startup has delivered, but the war is still going on. So, but we are upbeat about it, that we will beat this war and emerge more stronger going forward. And in fact, it has given this COVID, there are silver linings to it. We have been able to map our healthcare infra, what causes load on the healthcare infra. So, and I think we'll be better prepared the next wave of pandemic comes whenever. So let's take all the positive sides and let us emerge as winners. So that's our resolve. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for this very, very positive picture that you have, vividly described. I think you have touched upon not only the NSTDB initiatives, but also what Niti Aayog and DBT and other government agencies have done, which is really commendable.
So actually, yeah, just to add, we all work together.
Yes.
We used to have like bi-weekly meetings where all the Government of India departments, PSA office used to have it. So I am aware of like how government really work day in and day out. So that's why I can be so confident in sharing insights.
It's very heartening to see that many government departments have come together in this COVID challenge, and ICMR is spearheading it. Spearheading the kind of approval part. Now, see, you have touched upon many areas: AI, diagnostics, therapeutics, etc. And we are lucky to have some innovators here who represent these verticals. So, going to Adarsh, he's set up a company called Indra Systems, and he has been working on AI for a long time. And as soon as the pandemic, challenged us in January, and then March in India, there was a lockdown. He approached me and said that he wants to use his capabilities that he has developed. Actually, AI he was using on screening cervical cancer, but that AI capabilities that he has developed, he has used for detecting COVID-19 screening. So it's a very commendable achievement, especially when we hear about National Digital Health coming on and the draft bill is pending. I think there is a lot of opportunities for AI, and I would love to hear from Adarsh what he has done and what product. And of course, I know that he has launched his products. The product was launched by Honorable Deputy CM of Karnataka. So just over to Adarsh, your journey so far in AI, and what are the future?
Sure. Thanks, Dr. Jitendra, for a great introduction. And thanks, Anita, ma'am, for that wonderful recap of all that effort that's gone in, all that focus that's been brought in by the government and its various departments in kind of meeting the pandemic in a big way. But I think, as Dr. Jitendra was mentioning, that also provides a good segue into what we as innovators and startups are trying to do in a small way ourselves, right? So, as a quick introduction, ma'am, we are, and to all the speakers as well. So, my name is Adarsh. Good afternoon, all again. I run a startup. I'm the founder of Indra Systems. We're based out of Bangalore. We've been incubated at BBC as well. So our essentially what we've been doing before COVID hit us was in the space of oncology and specifically using artificial intelligence for early detection of cervical cancer. The way we used to do this was through a computational pathology platform that allowed us to take evidence-based testing of cervical cancer to the point of care. Now, they could be gynecologist clinics or primary health centers where we could enable them to actually conduct these highly, tests that would have required high skill sets at the word go. So that is what we had been working on, and when COVID stuck us and we were all stuck at home, waiting for for a good 50 days before we could all step out, right? So that actually put a kind of a halt to all our earlier activities. And while all of us were working from home, what we kind of brainstormed as a team is what is it that we could do with the capability and the expertise that we had. How could we re-leverage it, or how could we repurpose our own expertise or platform that we built to deal with the current challenge at hand, which was the COVID-19 pandemic. So with that as the overarching thought, what we actually set forth doing is we kind of came up with using chest X-rays and chest CT scans to detect for COVID-19 specific signatures. Now, when we we took a few months to kind of develop this, and as Dr. Jitendra mentioned, this product, once it was in a developed state, it was also released as a product by the Deputy CM of Karnataka. What we've done is, after the release, we've kind of run this screening for COVID-19 using chest X-rays in multiple corporates. What we do is we just don't look, so we look at the target organ that COVID-19 anyways infects, and for asymptomatic people where the lungs could get impacted, this was one good way of detecting for any early damages to the lung. What we did also is, when we started looking at the chest, we understood. Sorry? Yeah, I'll continue. What we saw when we were looking at the chest was that there was not just COVID specific conditions, but there were also existing lung damages that were creating a risk profile for all the people that we were screening. So essentially what we were able to make out is not just screen for COVID-19, but also look for risk stratification for an individual who had any kind of lung damage, right? Now that was a very powerful indicator that if such an individual in let's say in an organization or a corporate happened to contract the COVID-19 virus, then he was predisposed to a level of hospitalization that might have required him to move into maybe an ICU or an oxygen support. So essentially what the tool or our innovation allows us is to kind of also kind of stratify individuals on the risk that they carry as individuals because of their own chest health or their own lung health. So that kind of we remodified or repurposed our AI engines to take in chest X-rays and chest CT scans, analyze them not just for COVID-19 but for all about another 21 other types of conditions, which allowed us to then also stratify based on the risk that the individual carried, and then the organizations could then take a call whether it was safe for them to continue working in an exposed manner, or it would be best for the individual to work from home, or any other such remedial actions. So this was kind of run in a large bank here in Bangalore, where they ran it for about 2 days, covering hundreds of their employees who were on site. So this is something that we also feel would be very relevant for resource constrained settings, where X-rays can be a first level of triaging or a screening to look for early detections of any lung impairment that could later kind of precipitate if COVID actually happens. So in a way, it would at a large population level, it will also help in trying to dimension or size for the kind of health interventions that may be required once a large amount of population do get infected with the virus. So that is one product that we did. We also have a teleradiology that is it comes along with this product, which allows radiologists sitting across anywhere in the country to be signing off on what the algorithms have told, and therefore it provides an end-to-end solution for corporates, for even at district health centers and those kind of contexts. So that was in a nutshell about what we developed during the pandemic, and happy to say we've been supported by BBC, Karnataka government, and of course BIRAC has been one of our very early funding agencies, and thanks to all the great support that we've received from the ecosystem. Over to you, Dr. Jitendra.
Thanks, Dr. Adarsh. In fact, I think India can take lead in the digital, because we have the capabilities. Digital health is something that India can take lead on. And I think with this digital health mission, it will be, laws will be framed, policies is already being framed for applications of AI in, healthcare and all. So I think you can take advantage of all this, which I am sure you are already working on. So thank you so much for describing all that you have done, and best wishes for your product.
Jitendra, can I ask one question to Adarsh?
Please.
Yes,
so Adarsh, just give me a sense of how many X-rays you access to arrive at the, you can say, the most reliable and accurate kind of decision making or diagnostic tool, because India as of now touched 55 lakhs of patients. I believe you require lakhs of such X-rays as your data sets to arrive at a really reliable kind of
yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, for our X-ray algorithms, we've trained them with about 3.2 lakh images, ma'am. So 3.2 lakh images, which is a combination of multiple conditions, not just for COVID, but it's a combination of COVID plus other conditions as well. So we've trained our algorithm to look for about 20 conditions as I.
So did these images were accessed from all over the world, or is it only confined to India?
No, ma'am. This is from all over the world.
All over the world.
Because I mean, that's something that I think it would be great if such data can be made available to the Indian innovators as well, because finally data will kind of help in seeding more such innovations. And I think that is something that I would really think that where India as a country, we need to probably amplify that a little bit more than what we're already doing.
Yeah, I would suggest Jitendra to as a basis of today's deliberations, actually take a note of or a gist of whatever key recommendations which come, and send it across to PSA office, Dr. Arvinda Mitra, who is heading the Agni program there. And I think they could deliberate. I am part of their Agni board also. So we could deliberate as a what proactively could be done and whom to collaborate with to share, which is the basic step for AI related tools.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks.
That's very helpful.
Thanks, ma'am. I think this is a very valuable suggestion. I will definitely do that. And one of the purpose of this conference and webinar was to actually facilitate that. I'm very happy that is being encouraged here. So, Adarsh, you are saying something?
No, I was just thanking ma'am for the great suggestions. Okay. That will really help further.
Yeah. Then moving on to our next innovator, Dr. Rishikesh Damle. Dr. Rishikesh is a founder of one company called Atrimed, which has come up with many products. But as soon as COVID struck, he diverted all his capabilities to tackling COVID, and he has come up with two products. One is face wash, and the other is the Tapman, which measures the temperature. But it has a lot of innovations, which he will speak about. But I'm more excited about his, therapeutic molecules that he has already got in silico validation from ICMR labs, and now he is on to clinical trial phase 1. So a very well accomplished entrepreneur and scientist. Over to you, sir. What has been your take on challenge? Tackling this challenge, please.
Namaste, everybody. Good evening. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So as soon as COVID started, we embarked on the research. Actually, we started our work in January when it was there in China of in silico modeling. Before that, I will say that we actually worked on 3 fronts. The first one is about the prevention. Prevention is antimicrobial sanitizer, antimicrobial face wash, and hair wash. These 3 things is all from herbal origin. At a point when everything was soap-based, we created non-soap-based face wash as well as non-soap-based, non-antibiotic based, hair wash. So we launched it around in May and June with the help of Bangalore Bioinnovation Center, and our Honorable Deputy CM had launched it. Then, meanwhile, I have a close friend of mine who is an engineer. So he was asking me, why should we be importing handheld thermometers from abroad? Can't we do it here? I said, so we said that we can give you technical knowledge from, health-based knowledge. I'll tell you a simplest thing. The first conversation why it went ahead was, I told him, do you know that there is no infrared radiation which has been shot and, which reflects back in the thermometer? He said, can you really explain me now? What is it about? So I told him that every surface actually emits infrared, and even human body emits infrared, and all you need to do is just to capture the infrared. You don't need to send the infrared and look at the reflection. So he said, I want to get a reading about it. Then I sent him some material. Then he realized that we can really do it much cheaper. That means all you need to do is the capture infrared without throwing the infrared on the body. So what happens is the cost becomes 50% if you have to just capture it. So with this technology, we developed infrared handheld non-touch thermometer, and I want to tell that this is any thermometer, handheld thermometer should be tested within 3 centimeters of the body if you really have to get the temperature, and the maximum error you can get is 0.3 Celsius. So we developed that instrument, and again, Honorable Deputy CM launched it. Meanwhile, during Jan, we created, there was somebody in France who published the data about the coronavirus spike glycoprotein, genomics. So we got hold of that, and we created a structure of spike glycoprotein. This is an in silico structure, and we screened. That we have 408,000 plant-based molecules with us. We screened against that, and another protein called RDRP. Then another protein which is these are proteases as well as envelope protein. And to our surprise, we found that there are some plants which have inhibitors of all the 3. So we approached ICMR. Unfortunately, we got access only in July, and we did in vitro study with the standard as remdesivir. And our drug was superior to remdesivir as far as in vitro is concerned. So then we asked for IC50 studies. I think probably this is the first time that anybody has done an IC50 study on a plant molecule. So even in IC50 studies, it was as good as remdesivir within that zone of 10 micromolar. Then we did acute toxicity studies, which is past acute toxicity studies. Then we conducted subacute toxicity study for 27 days. Even that has gone through. Then we finished phase 1. in phase 1 also, drugging is done. Observation is remaining for 2 days, and I can tell you with the assurance that there is no side effect, absolutely no side effect, because of the dosage. Acute toxicity study was done at 2000 mg per kg body weight, and our dose is just 50 mg per kg body weight in humans. So we finished the phase 1. Now we are waiting for the phase 2 study. I have approached Ramaiah Medical College and here and there, and there are a lot of obstacles as far as the herbal research is concerned today because of confusion which prevails today. So I think we will on this Friday we will be approaching the the ethical committee, and because since the earlier study was registered with the CTRI at ICMR, probably we will get it through. Otherwise, maybe with some corrections. So hopefully by next 2 months we will have an indigenous drug which kills the virus. This is not immunobooster or something. This really kills the virus. And personally, because there have been infections in my family, I can tell you that the people recover within 24 hours, and RT-PCR becomes negative in 4 days. That's my personal experience, but I mean that's not probably data which I can publish. But once I finish the study, because when we went to phase 2 study ethical committee, they were asking, why are you doing RT-PCR on the day 3? I said, sir, I know that on day 3 it is likely at least 50% of them will be negative. I said, how confident are you? So I said, I'm confident because of I have the result. I myself, my family people had positive on the 26th, and on 29th I have a result that they become negative. So if not 29th. So we are expecting 3 things here. First thing is, if you can make somebody RT-PCR negative within 5 days, that guy is definitely not going to infect others. Secondly, if you make somebody negative RT-PCR in 5th day, it's unlikely that he needs oxygenation or gets into ICU. Lastly, post COVID morbidity is an issue, because I've been interacting with the HODs of various medical colleges here. They are all my friends, and they say that post COVID morbidity is really a concern. And vaccine is unlikely to be available for everybody for till next year December. Though the vaccine will come, because we have 50 crore people have to be at least vaccinated, and our capacity may be just 1 crore per month. So we need a drug. So hopefully we will give a drug to the world which will kill the virus and make COVID person better within 5 days. That's our aim. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Damle, for giving us a brief on your innovations. It is very, very exciting, and I think it's a breakthrough. If it comes if it crosses all the clinical trials that we are planning and approval, I think it will be of greatest value at this point of time. So, wishing you all the best, and we are with you. I will also request Dr. Anita Gupta Madam to help in whatever way possible from the central government side, because she sits on the many committees and boards for approvals. Okay.
Sure.
So as she said, we will prepare a kind of a report on this webinar and then send to Principal Scientific Advisor.
Sure.
Coming to Dr. Vishal Rao. Vishal, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Vishal, you have been involved in many initiatives, both from the government side as well as your own initiative. You are an innovator yourself. You have come up with one device already previous to COVID, that was pre-COVID era. You had, you were, and during the COVID also, you have come up with many concepts and guided government and regulatory bodies. You are yourself in many regulatory, committees. And you were pioneer in convalescent therapy, plasma therapy, which you were working for a clinical trial. Could you tell us the current situation on convalescent plasma therapy, where it is, and what kind of innovations would help the patients who are suffering from the hospital side, because you are right on the clinical side, you are directly interacting with the patients. Your views, please. Over to you.
Yes. So, very good evening to all of you, and my regards to all the panelists here. the key points that I wanted to share about my learning during this pandemic phase has been the aspects of the focused learning of bench to bedside. I think I was listening to some of the panelists. One of the key learnings that we have had during this pandemic was, if you see the earlier publications on bench to bedside research in clinical science, it takes an average of 17 years. That is what is the durations published. So from bedside clinic lab research to then getting into clinical getting into clinical research, trials, then into guidelines, and then into bedside practice. This overall period may take up to 17 years. The COVID period has contracted this towards in months, if not years. And that is what we saw. And when I used to interact with the regulatory bodies on this aspect, they used to say, we are ourselves supporting this kind of an approach because it has not cut short the quality of the regulatory manner in terms of quality, but it has hastened the process for unnecessary clearances, which had impeded. So a lot of regulators used to say that by the time I would clear it, I would be out of the office. Because it would be so long, the regulatory clearances, which COVID has contracted today, sir. And that is the good learning we've learned from COVID experience. So from our own experience, we started with the 3 products which we had looked at. One is related to the mild COVID infections, which we developed the cytokine injections. The second one was related to moderate infections up to severe infections, which is what is the convalescent plasma therapy. And finally, for critically ill patients, we had the mesenchymal stem cell therapy. And we worked on all 3 aspects of it in all 3 phases of the therapeutic interventions. And our learning in all 3 of them has been that regulatory has been a very important thing that we got tremendous support from. And this is the place where we saw the regulatory authorities, the governments, and startup community got together to accelerate some of the work. In terms of convalescent plasma specifically, we started our application in the end of March, first week of April, sir. It was a 239-page application that we submitted to the DCGI for a phase 1, phase 2 clinical trial. And from there on, we've moved towards the off-the-label use. So today, as of now, when we say it, we have used about 600 plasmas in patients from this particular study. And our learning has been very interesting, that in the current pandemic, we still don't have a drug nor a vaccine at this current target. But if you look at it rightly, and if you look at data that has come from the Mayo Clinic and others in USA, which has been done on 55,000 plasma patients, they have found that the most important thing about plasma is that it is effective when intervened early. It is effective when it is intervened with the right amount of antibodies. And this is the only therapy we have right now in hand until we get some respite from an effective treatment in the pandemic. So we are continuing convalescent plasma as of now. We have collaborated with Emory University, which has been guiding us with the antibody, neutralizing antibody titer measurements, and we've been able to get some directions on our own analysis. So in our own limited analysis that we have done now on the 600 patients, we know that we've had up to 60% results in various categories. If it's the moderate category, we've had up to 90%. In the severe category, who are on oxygen flow, we've got up to 60%. And in the ventilator cases also, 50 to 60% results we've got. So what we know now is that convalescent plasma is an effective therapy in the current scenario until we gather more evidence. It cannot be used as a magic bullet. It cannot be used indiscriminately. But with the right amount of antibodies, we will be able to target and save lives in the current scenario. So what we are assisting the state government of Karnataka now is district-wise to set up the plasma bank based on our current evidence. And with the help of BBC, we are working on developing neutralizing antibody assay tests. And this is where I think we've got a lot of great assistance, both from the state government and from the Bangalore Bioinnovation Center. One of the places I think I would like to highlight is the COVID mentorship program, sir, where a lot of startups, I think Karnataka took a lead initiative to create under the ITBT ministry, the COVID mentorship panel. And Jitendra sir, you have been a part of this. I think that gave a lot of startups the platform to come forward, because it also has the drug controller's office participating in it. It has some of the key regulatory teams participating in it. that gives guidance to our startups on how to accelerate our innovation, because a lot of us are getting stuck at the regulatory level, either with DCGI or with ICMR. And I think these are the kind of guidances that are going to be essential for startups to break the barrier with powerful ideas. So I would again like to thank you for all the support we have harnessed till now to keep advancing our ideas.
Thanks, Dr. Vishal Rao. And again, I would say that whatever we are doing, we can relay it to the central government, and we see what can be, whatever are the glitches we can remove, and the products can come to the commercializable level at a much faster pace. So I would like to invite Mr. Manjunath, who has been a student at Institute of Bioinformatics and Applied Biotechnology, and after that he started a company, which is a very good example of student entrepreneurship, I would say, in our campus. And then he developed products, and then when the COVID situation came, he was very quick and agile in coming up with the product called viral transport media, which we had been importing from China, I think, if I'm not wrong. And you are the first company who has launched this product, and you are already in sales in huge numbers. I would like to ask you what kind of, how did you come up with this initiative and idea, and what challenges, and what is the journey so far, and how do you see it going forward?
Thank you, Dr. Jitendra, for your introduction. And thank you, Dr. Anita and your team for such a great work during the pandemic times. Good evening, everyone. So to give a brief introduction about myself, me with my co-founders, Mr. Dinesh Kumar Saini and Babulal Saini, founded De Novo Biolabs in 2013 and were incubated at IBAB BBC campus. So now we have an indigenous facility in Bangalore for manufacturing and R&D. So our journey was, we are supporting biopharma companies and academic institutions for their biosimilar drug development by providing customized products and services. So we are glad that we are the first company in India to start manufacturing of immunoassays for studies in different stages of biosimilar development. So we are also happy to tell that we were also involved in the program of developing the first biosimilar of Humira in India, where our tools were used extensively. So we do have in-house R&D capabilities for developing completely indigenous ELISA kits for pharmacokinetic and immunogenicity studies. Also biological reagents such as monoclonal antibodies, polyclonal antibodies, recombinant proteins, and any other assay reagents. Currently, our product portfolio of the customized service portfolio are getting used across the globe. And we are also supported by Government of Karnataka under the Elevate 100 scheme for the development of novel diagnostic tool to quantitate T3, T4, and TSH. And I would like to thank Government of Karnataka for supporting us. So in this COVID-19 situation, during the initial pandemic and the lockdown, there was a huge requirement of testing methods and for detection of COVID. So as a company, what we did was we started working on different strategies that how we can contribute to the response and respond to COVID-19 pandemic. So we decided to work on some of the diagnostic products which were in acute shortage, such as the viral transport media, RT-PCR kit, and we were also planning upon rapid antigen and antibody testing kits. All these were initially getting imported into the India, and so we wanted to do something in these fronts. So the first product was the viral transport media with the oral and nasal swabs. That was our first product to get an ICMR approval, and really thanks to ICMR for a very fast track approval. So the same was launched by Deputy CM Chief Minister Dr. Ashwath Narayana with enormous efforts from BBC. So in that, thank you, Dr. Jitendra, for giving us the opportunity and coordinating such an event. So BBC has played a really wonderful role to give visible space for startups. for their efforts by giving a platform to launch these products. And I hope my co-panelists also are witness to these activities. Many of their products also were launched. So accordingly, in the other than viral transport media, we are developing the COVID antigen detection rapid test, which is one of the early ideas to detect the COVID antigen by the lateral flow based rapid test in collaboration with ICAR laboratory, that is Nishad in Bhopal, to achieve this product to get into market for a very fast pace. So for this project, we also received funding support from BIRAC and NBM, and we are really thankful to BIRAC for supporting this project. So the POC is almost under development, and we are doing the clinical specificity and sensitivity studies. And going forward, we are also waiting for ICMR approval for single tube QRT-PCR test and antibody detection ELISA kit, which are under approval. Thank you. This is from our side.
Thanks, Manjunath, for this overview of what your product portfolio and how you have been taking advantage of the government schemes and ecosystem that is present here. And I wish you best of luck.
Thank you, Dr. Jitendra.
Yeah. So I'll go to Dr. Prabhakar Kulkarni, whom I know for a long time. He has been a serial entrepreneur. He started at IKP Knowledge Park, and then when I moved to Bangalore, I saw that he's again in Bangalore and started some company. And I was very glad that he approached me again saying that he started a new company and wants to, do something on COVID. So Dr. Prabhakar has launched three products actually on COVID, RT-PCR kits, etc. And he has been funded by BIRAC, Biotech Ignition Grant and all. So over to you, your journey so far, and what opportunities do you see further?
Hello, Dr. Jitendra. Hello, everyone in the panelists. Thank you for your time, and thank you so much, Dr. Anita Gupta. So actually in early February, March, I was, even now, I was running another startup called EduBioSkills, which is still running, where we make educational products for skilling in higher education, where we provide products called BioBoxes for self-learning with high precision and accuracy for biotechnological skills, both for higher education as well as industrial applications. And we were also making online education programs specifically for industrial skills. While we were doing that, I come from an in vitro diagnostic background with 15 years of experience of developing products and running startups. So the first thing in March we did was we developed a RT-PCR test, but we realized that our investors were not interested in diluting the brand EduBioSkills. So we wanted to retain brand EduBioSkills. So during the lockdown, we were able to start a company called NeoDX. And these are the products which were launched by our Honorable Deputy Chief Minister. And both my companies, EduBioSkill and NeoDX, are, I would say, are here and are running just because of presence of BBC and Dr. Jitendra's always being supportive to us for every innovation that we have been doing. And starting another new startup during the lockdown, when everybody was at home, I was running around, and we actually built a 4,000 square feet state-of-the-art manufacturing facility, which is right now in the process of obtaining ISO 13485. We are just waiting for the certificate, and we could develop 5 different products approved by ICMR, RNA extraction kit, as well as the RT-PCR kit. One is for 3 target gene, another one is for 2 target gene. And our products have got a lot of, say, appreciation in terms of the time and the speed and the accuracy. So we have seen really good appreciation for our products because they're totally made here in India, here in Bangalore, very close to BBC. And we developed all these products inside BBC as I was developing, building my manufacturing facility. So we are right now trying to even get approvals to sell internationally, which is what our focus has been. But overall, if I have to look back 6 months and see what all has happened, first thing is I'm grateful to everyone in the ecosystem. It's not only entrepreneurs, everyone who is involved, because on the March 26th, there was lockdown announced, and March 29th, Dr. Jitendra sent me an approval to go and apply for a e-pass. And March 30th, I had an e-pass for 3 of my employees, and we started coming out and working really hard to get new products. And central government, state governments, everybody involved in all these activities to support startup companies in India has been amazing. And we have been learning a lot from each other, because there have been a lot of interaction among entrepreneurs, like, okay, how did you get ICMR approval? How did you approach CDSCO? And how to even go for BIRAC. Good thing is EduBioSkill also got an BIRAC grant. NeoDX is a separate parallel company which I'm running, which is what is completely focused on manufacturing real-time PCR kits and RNA extraction kit. We also have more products in the pipeline which are innovative products. And we have built molecular diagnostic startup company for COVID and non-COVID and post-COVID era as well, because we want to become, one of the company which can actually create an impact, not only in India, around the globe, for molecular diagnostics, not only in infectious disease diagnostics. It can be many other things that we have been planning out. And this pandemic has actually brought in a lot of innovation in diagnostics, and more labs have been well equipped. Many people have got trained on something like real-time PCR, which smaller labs or non-research labs in India were not aware a few years back. And suddenly we have amazing diagnostic setup being set up in terms of molecular diagnostics, which is going to be definitely leveraged by everyone. And we would like to do that to create an impact where we, near future, we have better diagnostics, affordable diagnostics, more accurate diagnostics, using molecular tools the way we have been using now, and with more technologies coming in. I think everything happens for good. The technology, the pandemic has opened up so many new challenges, but at the same time, as an ecosystem of entrepreneurs and incubation centers and government, state, and as well as national government have come together to face this challenge, and feeling great to be part of this. And thank you so much, Dr. Jitendra, for all the support and also organizing this amazing panel discussion.
Thanks, Dr. Prabhakar. I'm again going back to Anita Madam. Ma'am, I have few comments, and I seek your guidance, not only as an incubator, but also on behalf of all these innovators who are on this panel, and many more who are incubating not only in BBC but similar incubators. See, one is that we have incubation centers all across India, especially like say IIT Mumbai, Sign, CCAMP, BBC, IKP Knowledge Park, and all. But what I understand is most of them, all of these, incubators are well catered to the needs. Well structured infrastructure is appropriate only till proof of concept stage. So they can do experiments and do a prototyping and do the proof of concept. But when we go further, suppose if we talk about BBC and similar organizations, I do not know if they have, at least BBC does not have the scale up mechanism. Say, for example, I'm talking about pilot scale. Say if Dr. Damle, for example, has come up with a molecule, we don't have a BSL-3 lab at least to, validate his product. If Dr. Prabhakar and Manjunath has come up with diagnostic kits, we do not have a clean room at a level where it can be produced at a pilot scale So GMP facility, pilot scale GMP is also not there. And of course, there are, grants specifically for, making all this, but grants are one thing, capital grants are one thing, the other is the capabilities, the manpower requirement, the operational costs, etc. How do you think we should overcome this type of challenge? And I'm not talking only about the infrastructure. Infrastructure, of course, I know that many schemes are there through NSTDB, Nidhi, incubator scheme, and all that for infrastructure. But I'm more talking about infrastructure is one, of course, but more about how to actually gain capabilities of running it, and then directly how these innovators can scale up their product. This is the main challenge that everybody is facing, scaling up, where the scale up, capital for scale up is also an issue. So these two issues, madam, what is your experience and how do you guide us going forward?
Yeah, so actually, thanks to COVID, at least we are deliberating on these missing pieces, the links of the larger innovation to market value chain. So as you say, the chain is as stronger as its weakest link. So we have to analyze link by link, and this 6-7 months have given us insights. Like, given if everything works well, everything falls in place at the right time, we can really accelerate the pace of development and come to the level that product, at least there's a product which can hit the market, product which can be sent to regulatory agency for approval. But you have to analyze holistically and in totality, how does it really take any innovation in this domain to reach the market? What are the hurdles to be crossed? What are the roadblocks? And how does the journey looks like? We have created Center for Excellences, but unfortunately, these Center for Excellence and incubation have not been on sector focus. Had it been on sector focus, I think now is the high time when we are talking of Atmanirbhar India, and we have to really analyze in going forward indigenously in the healthcare sector, and cutting across all the verticals. What are those which needs to be done? Some the best brains, best knowledge and collective wisdom has to really flow in to create the blueprint of healthcare infrastructure, which enables spotting any ideation, innovation at the ideation stage, and navigating that particular innovator or a startup founder to reach the stage. Because the government, role of government is only catalytic support, to be a facilitator. So, but other stakeholders should also chip in to make a vibrant ecosystem or make an evolved ecosystem, which we are actually doing it collectively. We are doing it because the industry connect is so very important when we talk of solutions of this kind, where hospitals has a major stake, medical fraternity has a major stake. Where are those? And even manufacturing, like many of our if you say of respiratory aids and ventilators, auto majors, their production lines were actually made available for producing these kind of thing, and many textile manufacturers for PPs and masks. So that's how also we have to have end-to-end solution. Where is the last mile connectivity? If government, if typical by the virtue of their role is only towards the initial support, because when no support is coming forth. So we are there only for 3-year time frame. What happens after they? Each sector you have to have the innovation value chain. What are the links? What are the missing pieces? And there has to be seamless kind of connection. If it is not there, we have to have a roadmap and blueprint and tackle those aspects, because it is really need of the hour. And if you are able to provide support, say initial 3-4 years, and leave them in lurch, that is not going to solve the problem, because some investors should be there who are the right mentors. You said BSL, you talk about the infra that we don't have BSL-3 testing for testing diagnostic kits. So all those things, if they're missing, we really have to put our best brains behind it, that this is not required. We cannot move forward. We don't expect us to move forward. And fortunately, this has given enough insights that when science is getting ignored in terms of the contribution which comes, everyone is looking for the science as a solution, be it vaccine, be it drugs, be it therapeutic solutions, or be it any solutions where one can really be confident of, okay, we have won a part of war for COVID. So I think let us take it like we have got new learnings, we have mapped the key issues and problems, how we can stitch these, you can say, points which have emerged. And then once you can say white paper is there with us, okay, how does it look like? These were, and figure out what are the low hanging fruits which have to be immediately addressed with not much of a resources in terms of capital to be deployed. Because this year, all our capital or funding has been slashed considerably because of COVID, because of the stress which was induced across the board, across various sectors. Our focus has been different, but let us utilize this time to come out with really good solutions across where as and examining and analyzing country as a whole. So once we do, I think healthcare infra is going to take the you can say front seat uh, because of this pandemic. And then there are other host of other sectors which are being addressed progressively, but healthcare is in the you can say in fact, I was handling parliament questions because this, I must say 80% of questions are only COVID. What government is, what vaccine development, what how much funds have gone into support startups or new solutions. So everyone now, let us use this opportunity when each and every citizen of India knows how important healthcare sector is, how important health is, to come out with a really it was a game-changing plan. So whether it's digital health, we need to integrate and leverage all these efforts which has gone in from the state governments and as a nation as a whole, how we could embark on the new phase of healthcare. That should be the talk of the town and need of the hour. I think this needs a very deliberate kind of discussions across the board to come out and involve all the stakeholders. It's not only government. Government will be doing it, but like we need a clear-cut picture. We need how many stakeholders are really going to get involved, and we should bring it. It's each and everyone collective participation. It's a patient, citizen, everyone. It's a participative role for all. That's my take on this.
Thank you, ma'am. And I think the time constraint we have already 1 hour is left, so our time of deliberation is over. Although I would like to, it's so interesting that I would like to spend some more time. But again, I think summing up, going forward is a very positive trend we have set up in COVID-19 during the COVID-19 challenge. Many things have come together, and as Dr. Vishal Rao also said, the time to launch the products have contracted. We have seen that this challenge has provided us the opportunity to actually excel. So hopefully this kind of trend will continue, and we look forward to government for all support that they have already provided, but still continuing with that. And I thank all the panelists for deliberating on their products and the journeys. And thank you so much. Over to Sushant, if you can just sum up and then.
Thank you, Dr. JK. On behalf of the organizer, I just want to ask Dr. JK and Dr. Anita Gupta one question to you. Like you must have been to many ecosystem of incubation facilities in many parts of the world, the best of the ecosystem. And I have been to also with Dr. JK, like Korea and US, and I have been to many ecosystem also. So, and there is no dearth of facilities like a physical infrastructure or talent pool in India. And in your opinion, what do you think where we lack? I want to understand for the larger benefit of the startups.
So Dr. Anita Gupta, ma'am, I request you to just say a few words on this?
See, if you talk about in terms of, let us analyze from the innovation kind of capabilities, everyone knows we don't lack in terms of the talent pool. We have the strongest talent pool. What really comes into play determining the success of innovation is the kind of how you can say mature the ecosystem is. Until as the because India embarked upon this particular initiative way back through our initiative, but given the size and the size of the country and the diversity of the country, we had a very small role. It was drop in an ocean. From 2016 onwards, I can say most of the departments were doing their bit, but they have taken a plunge proactively to be a part of the innovation movement or ecosystem. All state governments have proactively, although South has been leaders, be it Karnataka, Kerala, you can say Telangana or Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, they were the leaders as such, Gujarat, they were all leaders. But now we have more than 26 states which have actually formulated the startup policy. They are very supportive, but this policy should not be confined to, you can say, printed on or a sort of a paper activity. It has to be really translated into action. So this is the time everyone has realized what is the power of innovation, what is the power of science, what is the power of collaboration, and thing is only to fuse all these together. So I could say only ecosystem. I rate Israel as the best ecosystem. Having my last visit was in the December and to Israel, and I've seen the kind of startups in the biomedical domain. See, when they start, each family has a startup that is ingrained right from the beginning because of the adversity they are surrounded with, the sharpness, actually, which is you find everywhere. Everyone undergoes defense training. Everyone undergoes. It's a compulsory defense training. So you are constantly reminded of at the back of your mind that you have to face adversity. You have to face challenges. That's how the conditioning of a citizen takes place. And at the top of it is a patriotism. So these are the two things which make them very distinctive. And whatever products they are very sharp. The products they actually devise or design are not for their own people, because Israel is a small country. They design from the perspective of global market, a US market. Who will they take us? So in terms of the quality they bring in, the kind of you can say the brains which go behind. So it's the ecosystem which is a key contributor of you can say determinant of success. So if we have one piece is missing, if suppose there's a good global product in which is a global potential product, but there are no investors around, government cannot be supporting all. It has to see the marketplace have to come, industry has to come forth. So if these pieces are missing, how vibrant is that particular innovation? Everything, okay, it's good. Government is playing their role, catalytic role, but the science of mature ecosystem is it's on auto trigger mode. Everything is on the auto trigger mode. If we want a mentor, can you get all this list of mentors in your particular domain? Which is the best incubation which I could go through, source everything. I think I could see AMTZ falling to some that standard at WISAC when it was ventilator. 3 months they are giving quality high-end capital support. They are giving you biomedical engineers to work with for three months. So that's the same model Israel works. You have to just walk in with your idea. Incubators are managed by real people. They are VCs manage this show. Incubators, not the ones like sometimes your faculty people driving the show. Faculty people may not be having the business acumen, right, or market pulse of the market. They may not be knowing. So you have to have these really smart people driving all such activities who can visualize, who have the right set of connects, and then only we can think of having more successes, accelerating the pace of development, accelerating the numbers of products which hit the market. So that's how it takes place.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And barring China gives government support is too much. for all these activities, and let's not talk of China as of now, that's an aberration.
Yeah.
There is some confusion between the benefits given by the Ministry of MSME to the MSME companies and startups, because a lot of startups are deprived of those benefits.
So MSME by typical their nature, most of the MSMEs cannot be called as startups in a true sense where technology or innovation takes the front seat. You can see as of now the nodal ministry for rolling out or analyzing or evolving a good ecosystem is only DPIIT of Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So that's the entity. If because let us confine to only tech-based entrepreneurs. MSME is a different sector where a lot of work is required. When we talk of being vocal for local, that's another agenda before us. Or we call of Atmanirbhar, where we want like people who leave their native places, go to cities for want of better jobs, better quality of life. Why not recreate those kind of conditions in their native places so that they remain, they do not migrate? So there are multiple things we can ponder upon, and let us confine to what discussion, because Jitendra, it can go endless.
Yeah, I know.
It requires so many hours because India as a country has huge n number of challenges.
Yes, yes.
We have to let us confine where we can really collectively contribute and where we can really give good insights to the body in terms of the highest body in scientific ministries, the PSA office or NITI Aayog. These are the two ones who directly work under PMO. And if we really put our thoughts together in a much more constructive manner, I think we have done our job. Rest is like how the further deliberations takes place. So let us try to actually collate all the key requirements which are required. I think that should be our intent as of now.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I thank organizers for arranging this important topic. I think this YouTube, it's on YouTube and other social media. It is being streamed live, and there definitely would be a lot of comments and questions and maybe some suggestions. So I request Sushant to collect all these and give it to me so that I can prepare a report on this deliberations of this in this deliberations of this meeting, and then I will forward it to Anita madam, and then maybe to principal scientific advisor as advised by Anita madam. So I thank you so much. Have a nice day ahead. Thank you.
And thank you all, and wish all of you good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.